captive of my enemy. I was kidnapped by my sworn enemy. He thought I couldn't see. Crouching before me, he mimicked my fiancé's voice. Sarah, would you like to heal your eyes before the wedding? His beautiful amber eyes stayed fixed on me, unblinking. I suddenly leaned forward, my lips accidentally brushing against the tip of his nose. His entire body tensed, and I saw his eyes tremble, as if his very soul was shaking. That's when I realized Lucas didn't hate me at all. In fact, I think he might have feelings for me. After my death, I discovered I was merely a supporting character in a pseudo-incest romance novel. My childhood friend, James, was the male lead, and his sister, Emma, was the female protagonist. James had only approached me and agreed to marry me for my family's status. His true love had always been Emma, his stepsister with no blood relation. On the eve of my wedding to James, Emma climbed to the rooftop and called him. James rushed away in panic. I followed him, but due to my still recovering eyes after surgery, I fell down the stairs and died. As my husband, James inherited my fortune. He built his success on my corpse, becoming the new elite of the city circle, and eventually married Emma. My spirit floated in mid-air, watching them return to what was once my home on their wedding night. I felt nothing but disgust. The novel's perfect ending seemed to conclude there. Suddenly in the darkness, I saw a figure slowly walking towards the newlyweds' bedroom upstairs. An explosion rocked the night, flames and thick smoke rapidly consuming everything. James and Emma ran out of the room half-dressed. The figure first heard the commotion, then grabbed James, locking his throat in an iron grip. James clawed at the hands, choking out, "Who are you? Are you insane?" The man didn't answer, his cold expression like a cat toying with a dying mouse. His unfocused eyes stared at the struggling James. That's when I realized he too was blind. "Lucas," I whispered his name as my spirit began to fade. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself sitting in the back seat of a car with James. Everything felt strangely surreal. James suddenly asked, "Emma wants me to buy her some candied chestnuts from the old shop in East District. Would you like some?" East District, candied chestnuts. Wasn't this the day of our car accident? In that split second of realization, an out-of-control truck burst out from the intersection. James threw himself over to protect me, just like in my memories. When I next regained consciousness, I was lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by the strong smell of disinfectant. During the accident, flying sparks had burned my eyes. This time, I instinctively protected my eyes. Though they were still injured, I wasn't completely blind like in my previous life. After the bandages came off, I could still make out blurry shapes. James had injured his leg and stayed in the bed next to mine to look after me. Through my hazy vision, I saw Emma in a white dress, throwing herself into his arms. She sobbed, "Brother, are you okay?" I was so worried. James let her rest against his chest, gently stroking her head. "Don't worry, brother's fine." How had I never noticed how sickening this scene was when I couldn't see it all before? Suddenly, Emma seemed to remember something. Her body stiffened as she slowly turned to look at me. I stared back with empty eyes, asking softly, "Is that Emma?" "Sister, your eyes." I replied calmly, "I think I can't see." Emma let out a relieved sigh. James looked at her and seemed to smile. I was discharged from the hospital soon after. The doctor said my eye surgery was successful and my vision would gradually return in 2 weeks. In my previous life, the doctor had said the same thing. But my eyes never recovered, and during the follow-up examination, I was diagnosed as blind. James helped me out of the car, and Emma rushed over, handing some medicine to her brother. She instructed, "Remember to give sister her eye drops 3 times a day." Though my vision was blurry, I noticed something off about her expression. In the days that followed, they treated me like I was completely blind. They flirted and played around shamelessly in front of me. Apparently, James's previous polite restraint around his sister had all been an act. In my past life, they had fooled me for a long time. It wasn't until right before my death that I realized their sibling relationship wasn't normal. As I felt my way down the stairs using the handrail, James was in the living room, tilting Emma's chin up for a kiss. They froze when they saw me coming down. From the corner of my blurry vision, I saw Emma playfully punch him. How much filth does one have to witness in a lifetime? James came over to help me, asking softly, "Sarah, still can't see anything." I shook my head without speaking. If I could choose, I'd never want to associate with someone like him again. During the follow-up examination, the doctor had been replaced by someone working for me. The doctor said my eyes were recovering well and my vision would be fully restored in 2 days. We confirmed Emma had tampered with the eye drops. She'd used a mild dose. I'd just been unlucky enough to go blind last time. But how evil could a story's female lead really be? Emma's motivation for tampering with the medicine was simple: she just wanted to spend some intimate time with James. I recalled how in my previous life, James had grown distant from her after I was diagnosed blind. That was probably why. It's almost funny, James and I had dated for so many years, he did have some feelings for me. After my death, he would sometimes call my name when he was drunk. I seemed to have become the pure, unattainable love in his heart, and repeatedly became a barrier between him and Emma. To be honest, it's quite pathetic. The final diagnosis was the same as in my previous life: blindness. To restore my vision, I would need a cornea transplant, but we'd have to wait for a donor. Emma's fingers trembled uncontrollably as she held the diagnosis report. James noticed her unusual behavior, and his gaze toward her gradually turned cold. He gripped my hand tighter and said, "Sarah, no matter what happens to you, I will marry you and protect you." In my previous life, these words had moved me deeply. Now I only noticed how Emma's tears began falling in large drops when she heard this, though she dared not cry out loud. I asked him quietly, "Would you donate your corneas to me?" James froze for a moment. Living people can't donate corneas. Lucas had said the same thing. He had smiled and said to me, "Kiss me once, and I'll die for you, okay?" At that time, he seemed like a madman. Counting the days, I realized I would soon meet that madman. 2 days later, when I went to the hospital for a checkup, Lucas appeared. He walked to my side and directly supported my arm. His arm was firm and strong, yet his touch was incredibly gentle. I asked softly, like in my previous life, "James?" Lucas responded coldly. I smiled slightly, knowing it wasn't him. Lucas and I were high school classmates, and in my memories, he had barely spoken to me. There was a period when he didn't come to school. I heard from classmates it was because his mother had severe lung disease. My uncle happened to be a top specialist in that field, so I arranged for him to examine and operate on his mother. At that time, James, who had lost both parents, was being groomed by my father as his successor. James had warned me, "Sarah, there's something you should know. Lucas's father's death might be connected to your uncle. You'd better stay away from him, he might use you for revenge." I looked up to see Lucas standing nearby, holding a box of chocolates, his lips curved in mockery. Exposed so quickly, he turned around and threw the chocolates in the trash. I remembered that after I started dating James, Lucas never showed me a kind face again. He took over his family's company and began creating obstacles for James at every turn. Lucas seemed to be the novel's villainous male supporting character. Thinking about this, I couldn't help but laugh. Lucas turned his head to look at me. "What's so funny?" I said, "I'm happy you came to pick me up." He tugged at his lips, staring at the passing scenery outside the window. "That's enough to make you happy." His voice was so detached it was hard to read any emotion, but his eyes gradually grew dim. After driving through a dense forest, the car stopped in front of a villa. This wasn't my home. Lucas held my hand as we got out of the car. Actually, in my previous life, I had noticed something was off at this point. James never got nervous and sweaty when holding my hand, nor did he take each step so carefully. This was Lucas trying hard to imitate James's gentle and attentive manner toward me. The villa's layout was identical to my home, and everything was arranged with consideration for a blind person. No wonder it took me several days to notice anything strange before. Back then, I couldn't understand why Lucas had imprisoned me here. He didn't hurt me or use me to threaten my father. He just quietly stayed with me. On the day he sent me back, I received a call from the hospital informing me they had found matching corneas. Lucas helped me sit down on the sofa. He looked at me very seriously. I noticed eye medicine on the corner of the coffee table. I remembered Lucas's unfocused eyes in the flames. He seemed to be going blind now. He suddenly spoke, asking, "You're getting married?" He realized this question sounded strange. "In 4 months, we'll be married." Though he deliberately imitated James's tone, if you listened carefully, you could still hear the difference. Lucas's voice was cooler and deeper. I lowered my eyes without speaking. Some messy hair fell beside my face. He seemed to want to help fix my hair, but his raised hand stopped mid-air and dropped. Wanting to touch, but not quite daring. His voice became slightly hoarse. "Sarah, want to heal your eyes before the wedding?" He looked at me, his light brown eyes swirling with unnamed emotions. I tilted my head slightly, deliberately unfocusing my gaze. His eyes were beautiful, the sunset streaming through the glass windows, casting romantic light into his pale irises, like fragile crystal. I unconsciously leaned closer, but I forgot how close we already were. His nose was straight, which meant my lips accidentally brushed against its tip. Just a simple touch. Lucas's entire body tensed up, his Adam's apple bobbing. The light reflecting in his eyes began to quiver. Then I saw an unusual flush appear on his face. My heartbeat also became erratic. Though I knew this man was both crazy and obsessive, I felt my heart flutter. Like I wasn't sure. I wanted to be sure. Want to kiss? I asked him. Desire surged in Lucas's eyes, but his voice remained restrained. Sarah, do you know what you're saying? I leaned in, but he gently pushed me back a little. He seemed to sense something was off. Sarah, can you really not see anything? I shook my head in confusion. In the next moment, he pulled off his tie with one hand. The tie gently covered my eyes, blocking all light, heightening every sensation. Lucas's forehead pressed against mine. His burning kiss fell upon me. Suppressed, restrained, controlled. He was trying to kiss me gently like James would. Though he knew I couldn't see, Lucas still covered my eyes. Because this kiss felt like something he had stolen. His careful manner made my heart ache. I raised my hand, grabbed his shirt collar, and deepened the kiss. Lucas's restraint crumbled in an instant. My lips were kissed numb, and only when I couldn't breathe did he finally let me go. Lucas lied, saying his aunt was on vacation. There was no one else in the villa. So he was the one doing all the cooking. The food looked decent but tasted terrible. I took a sip of the soup he handed me and frowned. I think you mixed up sugar and salt. Lucas tasted it, then started clearing the dishes from the table. Don't eat this. I'll order takeout. I gently held his hand. That's when I noticed the cooking burns on the back of his hand. Don't clear it away. I'm not that picky, I can eat it. I picked up my bowl, where Lucas had already served some dishes for me. He used to be a privileged young master who never had to lift a finger. But after his father passed away, his uncle seized the family assets. He had to attend school while taking care of his critically ill mother. His life plummeted from heaven to hell in an instant. I couldn't even imagine how much suffering he endured to reclaim everything he had now. Back then, when my father chose to cooperate with his uncle, it indirectly led to his father's death. So why didn't he hate me? My eyes welled up, vision growing blurry. Lucas looked over. Why are you crying? I picked up some food with my chopsticks and said hoarsely, your cooking is terrible. Then don't eat it. No, you worked hard to make this. Help me eat some too. Lucas smiled and started eating. He seemed to have no sense of taste, eating everything without complaint. I asked casually, you mixed up salt and sugar, is there something wrong with your eyes too? Lucas's smile instantly faded. No. I could tell he was lying. When he looked up at me, I quickly lowered my eyes. His gaze lingered on me for a moment before he asked with an ambiguous smile. Sarah, can you actually see? I panicked. No, I can't. Lucas had always had sharp intuition. He naturally didn't believe what I said. But when he carried me upstairs and I obediently nestled in his arms, he finally let go of some of his suspicions. He leaned against the bathroom door frame watching me finish washing up, then carried me to bed. Lucas lightly kissed my forehead. Sleep well. As he started to get up, I grabbed his sleeve and asked softly, won't you sleep with me? His body instantly froze. We're not. Before marriage, James and I had never shared a bed. I thought he was being respectful then, but now I realized there must have been another reason. Lucas seemed to know this too. His palm covered the back of my hand, burning hot. He pushed my hand away, his voice hoarse with annoyance. Sarah, don't talk to me like that anymore. Lucas's calloused fingertips gently brushed my face, tucking away some stray hair. Go to sleep. With a click, the room lights dimmed. Lucas, I sat up, calling his name. Lucas's hand froze on the doorknob. He looked back at me through the darkness. I'm afraid of the dark, I said softly. In my previous life, when I discovered Lucas's true identity, I was terrified, curled up in a corner of the room, screaming at him not to touch me. I called him a pervert, called him disgusting. He didn't move, probably just standing there watching me. Then, in a hoarse voice, he repeatedly apologized. He said, I'm sorry, Sarah. I won't hurt you. I just wanted to see you. Lucas stood in the doorway, eyes narrowed. When he looked at me again, his expression was completely cold. His lips curved in a mocking smile. Sarah, why are you pretending to be blind? Partly to see through James, partly to see him. I couldn't exactly say that out loud. I took a deep breath, trying to make my voice sound angry. Lucas, why did you kidnap me? I want that piece of land in South District. In my previous life, when he let me go, that land naturally fell into James's hands. I knew that if he really wanted to fight for it now, James wouldn't stand a chance against him. He was lying to me again. I got out of bed, took 2 steps toward him, then stopped. Moonlight filtered through a gap in the curtains, softening his hard features. Half his face was bathed in darkness, his light brown eyes cold and distant. I tilted my head up to look at him. If you want that land, just take it. Surprise flashed through Lucas's eyes, followed by a cold laugh. Fine. Until I get it, you'll stay here obediently. Okay, I agreed sweetly, but I need an eye checkup tomorrow. Can you arrange someone? He nodded. I'll arrange a doctor for you tomorrow. I smiled at him. Good night, Lucas. Lucas froze for a moment, then warned coldly, don't smile at me. I'm the bad guy. Bad guy? The bad guy who left a night light on for me when he left. Early the next morning, the doctor Lucas arranged arrived. After examining my eyes carefully, he told Lucas, her eyes are recovering well. She doesn't need a corneal transplant at all. Lucas narrowed his eyes at me, trying to read my thoughts. The doctor packed up his things, walked over to him, and said quietly, Mr. Liu, you should get checked too. He coldly refused, not necessary. I rested my chin on my hand, watching him. If you get your eyes checked, I'll tell you why I'm pretending to be blind. Lucas agreed, letting the doctor examine his eyes in the study. Left outside, I couldn't know the results. But from the doctor's grave expression, they probably weren't good. Lucas sat on the other end of the sofa and spoke coldly. Tell me, what do you want? I shifted closer to him. Lucas raised his eyebrows, surprised by my approach. In his memory, I had always treated him like a villain, staying as far away as possible. Lucas, have you read novels? I only learned after dying once that I was just a character in a novel, and James approached me only to use me as a stepping stone. In my previous life, after I died, I saw you went blind and killed James to avenge me. That's when I realized I had misunderstood you all these years. You're saying you saw me go blind and kill someone after you died. He raised an eyebrow and laughed. We're quite the pair, aren't we? I realized only after speaking how ridiculous it all sounded. Lucas's lips curved in mockery. You're sure James, that worthless man who can only succeed by using women, is the protagonist in the novel while I'm just a supporting character? He naturally didn't believe the novel part. He just despised people like James. I fell silent for a moment, looking into his eyes. Before, when I fell for James, I was blind. Now, I'm not blind anymore. I lowered my eyes, my ears unconsciously growing hot. That day when I kissed you, I felt something. Lucas's smile froze, his gaze examining my expression inch by inch. Clearly, he didn't believe a word I said. I sighed almost imperceptibly. James is in love with his sister. I don't want to marry him, I want to get revenge. Lucas's stern expression softened slightly. Now he believed me. Want to use me for revenge? What's the exchange? The condition is... I smiled. How about being with me? Sarah, we're supposed to be enemies. His gaze fixed on my slightly upturned lips, his Adam's apple bobbing. He finally couldn't keep up the act anymore, leaning in to kiss me fiercely. This was my second kiss with Lucas. He no longer pretended to be gentle, and wasn't gentle at all. His essence invaded my senses, gradually stealing all my breath. Finally, his chin rested on my shoulder, his warm breath falling on my neck as he panted slightly. You said it, you want to be with me. Sarah, you can use me, but you can't dislike me, can't hate me. He kissed me too hard. My head was spinning, and it took a long time to come back to my senses. Lucas. His arm propped beside me as he looked at me. Sarah, do you regret it? The light in his amber eyes suddenly dimmed, his eyes rimming red. His brow was handsome, but those pale eyes beneath seemed about to shatter. But really, I was the one being bullied. I shook my head, gently stroking his brow, softening my voice. I know you're helping me find corneas. You don't want me to go blind. So I don't want you to lose your sight either. Will you be good and go to the hospital? Lucas looked down at me. His long eyelashes cast shadows on his lids, hiding the emotion in his eyes. After a long while, he finally answered, okay. 2 days later, I accompanied Lucas to the hospital. During his power struggle with his uncle, he had barely slept. That's when his eye condition developed. His situation was more serious than I had imagined. The doctor advised immediate surgery or he risked going blind. In his previous life, he must not have had the surgery. I sat with him in the Rolls-Royce's back seat, turning to look at him. Why didn't you want surgery before? He said coldly, I never said I didn't want it. I pursed my lips, you better not have. Lucas turned to look at me. As if he couldn't see clearly, he leaned closer. His sharp presence just inches away. He cupped my face, his calloused fingertips gently stroking my ear. You said you wouldn't marry James. I nodded. His smile spread, then I'll have the surgery. But Sarah, can you tell me what you really want from me? Why are you being so kind to me? Both before and now. I shook my head, stunned. He covered my eyes with one hand, his other arm around my waist. The partition in front slowly rose. He moved closer inch by inch, gently biting my lip, his hoarse voice pleading. Don't care about me, don't be so kind to me. I'll get addicted. The Rolls-Royce slowly came to a stop. Lucas pulled my collar up a bit higher, covering the red mark on my collarbone. He smiled mischievously, sorry about that. Then he tied my hands behind my back and blindfolded me. When Emma walked out of the villa, Lucas pushed me out of the car. She cried out in surprise and ran toward me. The blindfold was pulled off. Sister, your eyes. I looked at her coldly. I can see. Are you disappointed? James quickly rushed back from the company. He crouched in front of me, full of concern. Sarah, where have you been all this time? I looked down at the silk ribbon Lucas had used to tie my hands, frowning slightly. I was kidnapped, isn't it obvious? James looked at my eyes. Kidnapped? Sarah, you can see. I smiled slightly. Yes, I was kidnapped and I can see now. James, will you still marry me? My collar slipped down a bit, revealing the glaring red mark on my collarbone. James closed his eyes in pain, and when he opened them again, they were full of devotion. Of course, Sarah. I promised no matter what, I would marry you. I couldn't help but laugh. James, it seems you don't like me at all. When your sister was forcibly kissed by a boy at school, you went completely crazy. Emma, who had been silent, gasped, Sister, you've... My voice turned cold. I'm not blind. I saw all your dirty deeds. If you don't want this to get ugly, cancel the engagement and leave the Sue family voluntarily. My father arrived quickly after receiving the news. James immediately knelt before him, confessing about him and Emma. My father slapped him and took him to the study. I don't know what they discussed, but I felt this matter wouldn't end so simply. My phone rang an unknown number. I answered and Lucas's voice came through. Things between you and James won't be easily resolved. Your father raised James like his own son. He paused. Seems like he's more important than you. I turned to look at the study door, speaking in confusion. Why? I'm his real daughter. I'll look into it. Lucas laughed. If you really don't want to marry him, I can kidnap you again. The study door slid open. My father stared at me, his tone brooking no argument. I've discussed it with James. He'll send his sister to study abroad and she'll never appear before you again. Now that your eyes have healed, you should marry him quickly. The Sue family needs an heir. My father seemed unconcerned about my betrayal and kidnapping. All he cared about was the Sue family heir. I stepped back, tears rolling down my cheeks. Why? Why would you hand over the family business to an outsider? How am I any less capable than him? My father instantly raised his voice. What business does a girl have running a company? Then he suppressed his emotions, stepped forward, and tried to comfort me. Sarah, I know you've been wronged, but James is a good boy. He'll treat you well. You like him too, don't you? My voice choked. I don't like him. I won't marry him. My father finally lost his patience and shouted at me. You need to think about the Sue family's future. This isn't the time for your willfulness. Since childhood, whenever I made mistakes, my father would lock me in my room to reflect. I never expected that today, refusing to marry James would count as a mistake. James stood in the doorway, maintaining his fake, sympathetic expression. Sarah, don't worry, I'll talk to your uncle about this. I've already called the police. I won't let whoever kidnapped you get away with it. I wasn't kidnapped, I smirked. He just thought it would be more thrilling to play with me that way. In an instant, the mask of false tenderness on James's face began to crack. I rarely bothered with him, simply slamming the door in his face. I let out a soft breath, feeling a surge of vengeful satisfaction. Suddenly, a light chuckle sounded behind me, thrilling. My body froze and I slowly turned around. I saw Lucas's face, caught between a smile and a smirk. The sheer curtains behind him billowed in the night breeze, moonlight spilling across the floor. Outside, James regained his composure and began his passionate declarations. Sarah, you're just trying to fool me, aren't you? I know you're angry with me, but I'll never see Emma again. I promised your uncle I'd treat you well for life. I know you love me. When I had a fever, you stayed up all night watching over me, you even made me porridge. As he continued reminiscing about the past, I stared at the throbbing vein on Lucas's temple, wishing I could die. Lucas pinned me against the door. He was tall, and when he looked down at me, there was something domineering in his gaze. He leaned down, whispering in my ear, Sarah, I can't take it anymore. I want to kill this bastard right now. His hand rested on the doorknob. One slight push would open it. I wrapped my arms around his neck, looked up at him, and shook my head slightly. Don't look at me like that, it won't work. His voice was steady, but the slight tremor in his tone betrayed him. I stood on tiptoe and kissed his jaw. His stubble tickled me. I whispered, come down a bit more, As I spoke, I realized my voice sounded like I was pouting. Before I could finish, Lucas bent down and kissed me. His hand, originally on the doorknob, moved to grip my waist. The pressure gradually increased. Even through my clothes, I could feel the burning heat of his palm. His kiss made my legs weak. Lucas looked down at me, silently gazing. Outside, James's annoying drone seemed to fade away. His eyes held only me. His world contained only me. He grabbed my wrist and placed my hand over his heart. Beneath my palm, that heart beat forcefully. I heard him say, "Don't tease me like this anymore. My heart can't take it." Lucas sat down directly on the carpet beside my bed. Only then did he remember to explain. "When you didn't answer your phone, I was worried something happened, so I came to check on you." My father took my phone away. I realized something and glanced at him. "You came to check on me by climbing through the window." He scoffed coldly. "What, you think your father would invite me into your room if I knocked?" I muttered, "Your eyes aren't good, and my room is on the 3rd floor. Lucas gazed at me through the warm light. He raised his hand, fingers threading through my hair. Pulling my head to rest against his chest, he stroked it gently. "Don't worry, I'm not ready to die just yet." He took a deep breath and slowly began speaking. "I've figured out what's going on between your father and James. James is your father's first love, son. Your father married your mother for money back then, but he never got over his first love. He's always treated James like his own son, which is why he's forcing you to marry him even though you don't want to. They're essentially the same type of person, worthless men who can only climb up by using women." Lucas's voice suddenly stopped. "All right, I won't talk about your father in front of you anymore." His fingertip gently wiped the corner of my eye, feeling the wetness there. Only then did I realize I was crying. No, I just thought of my mother. In the last period before my mother died, she was constantly depressed, repeatedly saying she had misjudged someone, that she had been deceived. Lucas was right, my father and James were the same kind of person. People like them deserved to go to hell. Didn't you always want to move against the Sue family? I looked up at him. You can do it now. The previous tactics Lucas had used against James were merely superficial. Because of me, he had never truly struck hard against the Sue family. He held my chin, smiling. How can I strike when you look at me so pitifully? In the following period, I started cooperating with Lucas. Although my relationship with James was tense, I still attended the same business banquet with him. In the hotel ballroom, Lucas looked at me across the crowd. By this time, his vision was very blurry, but he could still instantly lock onto my position. But his expression was cold, like before, looking at me as if I were a stranger. My heart inexplicably ached. James appeared beside me with a glass of red wine. He raised his glass toward Lucas, his expression provocative. "Thank you, Mr. Sue, for trusting my fiancé so much. That's how I managed to get that piece of land in the South City so smoothly." During this time, Lucas had been suppressing James. But somehow, that piece of land in South City still ended up in James's hands. Lucas had never believed I would stand on his side. But such a result would surely make him misunderstand, right? Lucas didn't speak, just pulled up the corner of his mouth and turned to leave. I instinctively moved to follow him but was grabbed by James. He no longer pretended to be gentle and loving. His eyes were dark, his face livid, completely showing the expression of someone betrayed. "Sarah Sue, I knew there was a reason you suddenly wanted to break off our engagement. Fortunately, my people found out you've been fooling around with Lucas. Too bad that after this, he won't trust you anymore." James thought that planting a few corporate spies would be enough to drive a wedge between Lucas and me. I broke free from his hand, smiling as I said, "You don't understand him." I chased after Lucas but couldn't find him. James followed behind me as we left the banquet hall. He looked at me coldly and slowly spoke. "You won't see him again. After tonight, he's completely finished. Lucas's eyes are bad. He just followed a woman who looks very similar to you. After you betrayed him like this," he clicked his tongue coldly. "He must really love you to listen to you so much. A woman who looks like me." I spoke without thinking, "Emma." I remembered that Emma and I looked somewhat similar from certain angles. "Don't you love her? Yet you're willing to let her do something like this." "I won't let anything happen to Emma. Lucas has almost pushed me to the edge. I must eliminate him this time." After getting the South City land, my father had delegated a lot of power to him. Now, James no longer needed to pretend to be deeply in love with me. With a smug expression, he sneered. "Sarah Sue, after tonight, you'll lose all your support. If you and Emma didn't look somewhat alike, I really couldn't have kept up that act in front of you for so long." There was a line in the original novel, "What the brother wants, the sister will use any means to help him get." Their relationship was truly disgusting. I looked at him coldly. "I've been so busy dealing with you lately, I almost forgot to take care of that dear sister of yours." James received a phone call, then asked me with a dark expression, "Want to go upstairs to watch a good show? Lucas is in the suite upstairs. If you go up now, you might get to see him one last time." I rushed out of the elevator. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my wrist. I lost my balance, but an arm caught my waist. The familiar scent surrounded me, and my anxious heart finally calmed. A deep voice sounded by my ear. "Sarah, worried about me?" I hid around the corner and saw from the corner of my eye. Emma was pushed out of the room, falling naked to the floor, appearing disoriented. James took off his suit jacket, rushing over to cover her body, shouting angrily for others to turn around. Lucas gently turned my chin away. "Don't look, it's disgusting." I was a bit confused. "Why are you here? Who was in the room?" "My bodyguard." I made her drink the wine she tried to give me. Lucas paused, then continued, "But I ran out when she started taking off her clothes." He blinked his light brown eyes and explained further, "You know my eyes are bad, I didn't see anything." Under the warm corridor lights, those beautiful eyes of his were clear as crystal. He looked so innocent. I smiled and reached up to touch his bangs. "With your bad eyes, how did you know she wasn't me?" In my previous life, after I died, James would call Emma by my name when he was drunk. Lucas looked down at me. "I just knew it wasn't you." His voice was low and gentle. I was somewhat entranced, my fingers unconsciously continuing to stroke his bangs. He finally couldn't help but laugh. "Sarah Sue, am I a dog to you?" I came back to my senses, my face feeling hot. I glanced at the commotion beside us and pushed him away slightly. "Let's get out of here quickly." Lucas suddenly felt playful. He bent down and bit my earlobe. "I don't mind being your dog." To prove his ability to my father and to drive a wedge between Lucas and me, James had gritted his teeth and acquired that piece of land in South City. He had used some underhanded methods, and the land had cost much more than it appeared on the surface. Lucas took me to his office. He started teaching me how to deal with James, how to take power from his hands. I quietly looked at his eyes, then interrupted him. "You should have had surgery 2 days ago. Why haven't you done it yet?" Lucas was startled. "Is that what you're concerned about right now?" I nodded. "Why else would I go through the trouble of coming to see you at this time? Right now, dealing with James isn't as important as you." I took a deep breath and continued, "I have ways to deal with him. Will you be good and get the surgery?" His eyes trembled. "I'm worried about you. You don't trust me." "How could I not?" His voice was hoarse. "I believe everything you say." I smiled and said, "We live in a world inside a novel. I believe you. I died once and was reborn. I believe you. I love you." Lucas froze, not speaking, just looking at me. I gazed into his eyes. "You believed everything else, why not this?" He smiled, his light brown eyes flashing with vulnerability and helplessness. "Sarah, I want to believe you. I tried to dislike you, hate you, but I couldn't do it. Being clear-headed while loving you is a very painful thing. Lucas and I should have been enemies, but against all odds, he fell in love with me. He loved me more than I could have imagined. He kidnapped me just to remember my face before he went blind. He refused surgery because he didn't want to see me marry James. After turning 18, he gradually gained power, regaining everything. Everything except me. He pulled me onto his lap, his burning breath brushing my ear. "Sarah Sue, I'll go along with whatever you want to do. I know I love you, that's enough. Don't say you love me anymore. I'm afraid it's not real, and then I'll die." I hugged his neck tightly, wanting to scold him. "Idiot, idiot, you believe everything else but won't believe I love you." I pulled at his tie, unbuttoning his shirt. "If you won't believe anything I say, what do I have to do to make you believe I love you?" A streak of cold moonlight shone through the window, reflecting in his light-colored eyes. He stared at me for a moment, then smiled. "Sarah Sue, if you want my life, just say so." The next second, he held the back of my head and kissed me passionately. He had held back for so long but finally couldn't resist anymore. He caught my hand, intertwining our fingers. Our pressed palms were soft and burning, trembling slightly. I heard the sound of fireworks exploding in my ears. I heard Lucas's soul telling me he loved me. Early morning. I lay across Lucas's lap, my body completely relaxed. He was drying my hair. His long fingers and the warm air moved through my hair, making me feel so comfortable. Fighting against drowsiness, I tried to negotiate with him. "Do you want to see me again in the future?" "Yes." "Then." Lucas gently massaged the back of my neck, interrupting me. "So, hurry up and deal with James." He smiled. "Aren't you supposed to be impressive with your rebirth knowledge? After you handle him, I'll get the surgery, and then we'll get married." I was suddenly wide awake. Marriage. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "You're not planning to take responsibility for me?" "No, it's just," I bit my lip, stammering, "my father." Lucas kissed my forehead softly. "Don't worry, leave it to me." Before Emma could leave to study abroad, I filed a police report. She had drugged my eye drops before, which constituted intentional harm. She wouldn't be able to start her new life now. James kicked open my office door. Sarah Sue, what exactly are you trying to do? Emma was already preparing to leave, she wouldn't have bothered us anymore. Why won't you let her go? His words shattered my worldview with their shamelessness. I laughed coldly in response. You should know that the drug she gave me would have made me blind. You have no right to forgive her on my behalf. Besides, there's nothing between us worth mentioning. Other than breaking off the engagement, I don't want to waste another word on someone like you. James clenched his fists, his face turning blue with rage. Dream on. If you don't let Emma go, I won't let you go either. I chuckled and asked him, so if I let her go, would you agree to break off our engagement? James froze. I could tell he wasn't willing. He wasn't willing to give up his wealth and power to save his beloved sister. In my previous life, I must have been blind to fall for such a heartless waste of space. I told him, get out. People like James were used to taking shortcuts. He could use me to get the Sue family's fortune, and he could use Emma to eliminate Lucas. After he misappropriated company funds to get that piece of land in South City, he used the same tactics to snatch 2 projects from Lucas's hands. My father said seeing James's ruthless methods reminded him of his younger self, and he treated James like his own son. Too bad James never saw him as a real father. In my previous life, after I died, James inherited my estate and gradually swallowed up the entire Sue family. My father had a stroke from anger and was sent to a nursing home. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. My father still firmly opposed breaking off my engagement with James, insisting on pushing me into the fire. I knew the Sue family's money wasn't exactly clean. It was time to give it back. In my previous life, these 2 projects James stole from Lucas were crucial stepping stones in expanding his business empire. But now, his foundation was too weak. I used a few tactics and his funding chain quickly broke. Unable to operate the projects, they had to flow back to Lucas at a low price. The company was on the brink of bankruptcy, everything in chaos. I returned to my rented apartment. Just as I entered, before I could turn on the lights. In the darkness, Lucas pinned me against the door. His eyes were bandaged, still recovering from surgery. Unable to see, his waist hit the shoe cabinet and he let out a pained grunt. I asked in surprise, shouldn't you be in the hospital? Why did you come here? His knuckles gently brushed my chin. Such big things happening at your home. Of course I had to sneak out to check. It was indeed my father who did wrong back then. These 2 projects delivered to you are compensation. Lucas lifted me onto the shoe cabinet, his hands on either side of me, trapping me in a small space. He leaned close to my ear, chuckling as he asked, is today's events just compensation? What else would it be? I thought it was your dowry. Suddenly, there was a knock at my door and James's voice came from outside. Sarah, if you don't help me this time, I'm really finished. That Lucas is just using you to go against the Sue family, you can't trust him. Only I truly love you. Hearing his voice, Lucas tilted his head slightly. The air pressure instantly dropped. Lucas slowly straightened up, this time I have to beat him up. The next second, he yanked open the door and kicked James to the ground. The neighbors called the police, and we were taken to the station. My father had also called the police at the same time, and James was arrested for embezzlement. The police looked at James's bruised face and asked Lucas, did you do all this damage to his face? He pointed to the bandages on his face, looking innocent. I couldn't see at the time and was scared, so I just threw some random punches. Soon Lucas was released for self-defense. The company was near bankruptcy, with huge financial gaps that couldn't be filled. My father was frantic with worry every day. Finally, he turned his attention to me again. His own daughter was never as important as his company. That's when Lucas appeared. Wearing sunglasses, looking every bit the entitled rich heir. He put one hand on my shoulder, coldly eyeing my father. Old man, I'm taking your daughter. Money will be transferred to your company account in a while. By this point, I wasn't as angry as before. I wouldn't be coming back to this home anyway. I gave a bitter smile and said to Lucas, let's go. Lucas held my shoulders and said fiercely, you're part of my family now. Just try contacting the Sue family again. As we turned away, a tear fell from my eye onto his hand. Lucas panicked and grabbed my hand, his grip trembling. Weren't we just acting? Are you really crying? He called my name softly, Sarah, I can't see clearly yet, don't walk so fast. I pressed my lips together, I'm not crying, it's raining. Lucas took an umbrella from his bodyguard and carefully sheltered me to the car. He pulled out a card and a chocolate bar from the car and handed them to me. All the money James and your father lost is here. The Sue family's wealth was yours to begin with. If he won't let you inherit the company, you can start your own business, do what you want to do. I froze. You. Lucas smiled, what's mine is yours. The rain got heavier on our way home, his clothes half soaked. He took off his jacket and pulled me into the bathroom. Water splashed everywhere, his wet shirt outlining his perfectly toned muscles. The sunglasses were long discarded. Lucas's beautiful light brown eyes looked at me through the steamy air. "Can you see clearly now?" He bent down and kissed me. "Yes, because I need to see you." Lucas carried me and gently laid me on the bed. I yawned and asked him drowsily, "When did you start liking me?" Lucas kissed my eyebrows and said, "At first sight. That day I accidentally hit your head with a basketball. Your eyes immediately turned red. I gave you a chocolate bar and you weren't angry with me anymore." I snuggled against his chest. "Lucas, I wish we hadn't been enemies back then." He held me tighter. "I wish you hadn't avoided me back then." That night, Lucas had a dream. He dreamed of the first time he met Sarah when he accidentally made her cry. Sunlight filtered through the trees, dappling her reddened eyes. She was beautiful even when crying. But Lucas's heart felt like it was being torn apart. If only she wasn't crying because of him. He pulled a slightly melted chocolate bar from his pocket and gave it to her. Her eyes sparkled as she smiled at him. Lucas had never met someone who cried so easily yet was so easily comforted. His heart didn't hurt anymore. The sunlight was brilliant, the early autumn breeze gentle. Looking into her eyes, his heart thundered. In that moment, Sarah became his wild dream, one he would never forget.